welcome back to a very special episode of Fun. As always, I'm your Chuckle King Dan, back with you here in your ear holes, your eye holes, however you choose to consume this wonderful podcast. Welcome back. With me today, a very special producer, my sidekick in the seat today, in like the sidecar of my motorcycle, Indiana Jones style, is Brendon from Wait in the Wings, returning. Hey, Brendon, welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me in all my holes.
Anyway. Ear holes, eye holes, yeah, whatever.
Already demonetized. But there it is.
This is Brendon. I have you here for a very special reason. You're a Broadway expert. I'm a Broadway super fan and mini expert. And this is a special Tony nominated, Tony Award winning episode. All right, guys.
Yeah.
We have the one and only, like I just said, Tony Award winning, now Tony Award nominated, James Monroe Iglehart. James, welcome to the show, sir. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. Once I heard that I'd be able to do this, the Disney kid in me went crazy, so I'm so excited. Thanks, guys. This is cool.
I'm happy to have you here, man. I'm happy to because you're the OG Broadway Aladdin Genie. You made it. You made it happen. You bestowed the magic to that show, and then you pieced, and you went off to spread your wings, and it's incredible. It's truly incredible. And what's crazy to me is, James, and how do we get this going? We need to get you nominated for Disney Legend status. Can we I feel legally, if you win a Tony or an Oscar, an Emmy, anything for a Disney originated role, instant Disney Legend status. James, thoughts?
The funny thing about that is I think I have to win the other three to do that, and the problem is I will say I'm getting close. I'm getting close. I won a Tony for a Disney show. I was nominated for a Grammy for Aladdin the musical, and I have been nominated for an Emmy for playing the role of Mr. Puppy Paws on Disney Junior Super Kitties. So, and I've been in 2 Disney films. So you never know; it could happen.
We are so
Disney
close.
Legend status, though, I think you either have to win one more or be 74. I don't know. Figure it out.
Win a lot or be near death.
At least for the men, because you just see ladies, between 55 and 65, but the dudes are always I worked with Walt back in the. So I think I have either win one of the awards, but don't get me wrong, I also got the pleasure of singing at the Legends. At the Legends night, I sang for Danny Elfman. If people look online,
right, Oogie Boogie.
I sang the Oogie Boogie song for Danny Elfman, and to look out there and see Danny and then John, why am I forgetting his name? One of my favorite actors. Johnny was backstage. Johnny Depp was backstage. George Lucas was backstage. I actually saw R2-D2 and 3PO walk past me, and I was like, this is the greatest day of my life.
My
I
God.
just nerded out. It was so cool.
That is wild. What was it like being welcomed into the Disney family as you're an actor, you've been hustling for a long time, and then you get that you break into that Disney bubble? Were you flown or did you see the world as Genie? Did it whisk you off your feet?
I will say it was a childhood dream come true. My first movie that I ever saw in the theaters, my dad took me to the drive-in and we saw Jungle Book, and that was my first introduction into Disney. And I have been a Disney kid ever since. Anything that they could possibly do, I saw, and I always thought it'd be great to work with them and to be a part of that legacy and to be a part of those dreams and that giant rainbow and the colors and things. And once I knew for this particular project, I had auditioned for Lion King many times. This is a funny story. I auditioned for Lion King 3 times in 3 different cities, and by the time we got to the 3rd city, the guy who was behind the table, I won't say his name because whatever. I think
I know.
Disney,
I know.
Disney Legend status. You have to keep that intact.
He's right. He's behind the table, and he's like, I've seen you before, right? And he's just bobbing his head. He was like, yeah, man, always good to see you. And as I walked in, I'm like, I'm not getting this job. But when Aladdin came up, there was a fire and a spark in me that said, I have loved this film since I was 17 years old. My mom took me to see Aladdin for my high school graduation. That was my present, because we didn't have a lot of money at the time. So we went to go see that. And I was like, this is it. And then my wife and I, when we were so broke and I was doing theater, just making no money at all, we would drive up to Disneyland. I'm like, you're broke, you drive to Disney. Well, we would sleep in like the tiniest hotels, or we would go up for one day, take a nap in our car, and drive back. That's the kind of crap we did.
Right.
And we would see the Aladdin Spectacular every time, and I always wanted to be Genie. So to be able to finally be, cast as one of their
that's
cast
fascinating
members,
because
the
I was going to
magic
ask you
just
about that.
Wonderful.
The Disneyland Aladdin predates the Broadway Aladdin.
Yes.
And James, you're leading me into all my talking points beautifully, baby. How much of that Aladdin live show did you consume? And do you have any particular moments of because the Genie was like this fourth wall breaking monster in that show that was usually performed by local comedians. So did you have any specific memories of that performance, that show?
To be perfectly honest, no. There was just this conglomerate of, I have to see the show because it's Aladdin. I have to see the show because I just want to see, what the genies are going to do. I just want to see what they're going to do. And I was basically living in a fantasy world of, wouldn't it be cool if I could do that? And then when it came up, the first thing that I was told was, we're not doing that show. Our show is so far from that. That's the park show. We're going to do the Broadway show, and we got a whole different thing. And we want your Genie to be your Genie. Because the genies at the Disneyland park were very much not. Mine was an homage to Robin Williams, but theirs was like, you have to be like the Genie, break the fourth wall, make a bunch of jokes. And they kept saying we want a classic. And I was like, yeah, but I should make jokes. They're like, yes, but we also want the show to last for years. So it has to be a classic moment that no matter what happens, it's not a time capsule. It's just good all the time. So I asked them, I said, well, give me a little bit of leeway so that I can always tell a joke that will be timely for today, even though the rest of the script is classic. And they were like, that we can do. So,
nice.
So if you see it now, even 10 years later, the genies will always have some kind of joke that's today to let the people know that they saw it on that day, on that joke. You know what I mean? We have places in the show to do that. But they also said, James, there's one thing you can do that the other genies can't do. These guys are comedians, no disrespect to them, but you're a triple threat. You dance, you sing, you act, go for it. Yes. So they built these tap dance moments. They built these singing moments. They built all these crazy moments for me to throw in characters. And all of my crazy improv were done in rehearsals. And that's when Disney came to me. They were like, did we write that? No. And that's when all of a sudden our contracts changed. So me, my boy Brian Gonzalez, and Don Darrow Rivera, we were three of us. We're very good improv artists. The contracts came back the next day like, anything made in this room belongs to Disney.
Okay.
They got you. I totally understand because they were like, this brother is writing scripts. No. We ain't doing that. You can do it, but it's ours. And we were like,
and how was it working with Casey Nicola on that? And how did he inspire the improv and the dance elements?
Oh, Casey is a bundle of joy and just one of the most buoyant people in the world. And Casey and I are very similar with our comedy. Even we always used to laugh. I said, if Casey was black, Casey would have said, forget this, I'm playing the Genie. I said, Casey, seriously. Because we're both round, we're both bald, we're both funny, we're dancing. He was like, so he and I had so much fun with this, but he literally told us, he was like, I want this to be fun. I want it to be a buddy comedy. I want it to be a musical comedy. I want to pay homage to not just the movie, but to the old Broadway musicals that I loved as a kid that made me laugh and made the people happy from the time they walked in to the time they walked out. So he came in with just this energy of, give it all you got and I'll pull you back. You give me everything you got, and whatever's too big, if it's too big, I'll pull you back, but nothing can be too big. Go for it. And when I say that what was brilliant about it was we always knew we had two issues. We had the carpet and we had Friend Like Me. How do you do those things? And carpet technology, I can't talk about it because I still work for the mouse, so I'll never say a word. And the fact that you're wearing the carpet is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
What do you mean? I'm here right now. I can answer all the non-union questions. I'm non-union carpet.
Right.
What? I'll let you know how it works. I'll let you know how it works. But so they string me up. They string me up and
you go ahead, Carly. Give me some tassel, my man. Go ahead. So, and the other thing was, Casey looks at me and he goes, "Now we know we can't make you take your head off and juggle with it." I was like, "Gosh, I hope not." He said, "But we're going to make this number." He goes, "We're just going to make this number get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until the audience has no clue that they're just not going to know where we're going to go." And so he ended up creating, and we all ended up putting our heads together. But it was really definitely Casey's vision of this 7-minute, 28-second song
extravaganza
that just that went from the two of us, and it was all supposed to do like the movie does. It's going from the two of us to everybody all the way back in 1 second, just the two of us again. And I mean, we worked for 4 weeks on that doggone thing, and it was the most exhilarating and most tiring thing that I've done, and it was so much fun to do every freaking night, man.
Yeah, it's so funny because I've seen a lot of Disney Broadway, and I remember like we had this like renaissance of like Beauty and the Beast and like Be Our Guest, and then like Mary Poppins and Supercalifragilistic, and just, I mean, it was number after number in Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
And then like we got Tarzan and Little Mermaid, and the thing was that everyone was like, and even Frozen, they're like, you're not going hard enough. Like we want we saw Beauty and the Beast, baby. We want big.
You're talking about Little Mermaid had the roller skates.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I will say, that was listen, one of my favorite things in Little Mermaid is the two things. My homeboy played Flotsam, was one of Flotsam and Jetsam. And Poor Child, if you go back and listen to the soundtrack, Poor Child has some of the slickest vocals. My boy Derek Baskin, slickest vocals in the world.
Nice.
But Titus is a beast. And that God, why am I missing the song? Not Kiss the Girl, his other tune.
Under the Sea.
Titus, and that's another thing I had to tell. Now this is crazy. Now I'm a huge Alan Menken fan, right? Huge Alan Menken fan. And how do you give a man with 8 Oscars notes? How do you do that? But I looked at him and I said, Alan, I love you, but Robin Williams sang this in the basement, and you and Titus sing in the rafters. Can you put this song somewhere in the middle floor for me? I promise I will sell it. He goes, it's too high? I was like, now I'm freaking out, scared to tell him this. I'm like, yes, because I'm like, how do you tell him that? He was like, oh, well, why didn't you say it? Yeah, I'll take it down. I was like, oh my God, yes. Because I was so scared, because he could have said, I wrote it this way and this is the way I want it. And Alan is not like that. Alan is not like that at all. He literally was like, oh, yeah, I got it. And then when he put it in my key, he was like, oh my God, you sound so much better. I was like, yeah.
Thank you. Blessings.
So Alan Menken is the best. Oh, dude, man. Oh.
It's amazing hearing you like working on adapting the character and like building the character out of Nick Nothing. Is there anything that exists in the script now that was a James beat that like persists, like has like carried on in the track that you threw in there?
Yeah. Yes. The whole intro when Genie comes out is a lot of me, the whole thing of where I say, and this is for the kids in the back row, all that kind of stuff, all that mess in the front is me.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
Genies
Amazing.
Can play with a little bit, but all that stuff is a lot of me playing around, or me looking at, anything after Friend Like Me, or any of the ad-libs in Friend Like Me. If you hear the guys say, come on, yo, this is Kid for the Back Row, blah, blah, all that mess, that's in the song, that's all.
That's you. That's your ad-libs that just kind of like got baked in.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow. That's cool. You're so it's like Aladdin is like your Horcrux on Broadway. As long as it stays alive, you will stay alive.
Here's the fun part. I know I'm probably gonna get killed for this, but so I'm not gonna say who. I'm just gonna say one day I'm at work and I see the picture of the Genie in, I think it was Germany, and I was like, oh my gosh, he looks like me. And someone says, oh no, that's the signature Genie look. I said, what do you mean signature Genie look? This amazing young man in Germany had to cut his hair off bald and grow a goatee. And I said, what do you mean? They were like, well, you didn't look like this before. And I was like, no, yeah, I did. Yeah. He was like, what do you mean? I said, I was bald. I was bald. I had a goatee. Well, what about the hoop earrings? I said, I got those when I was 18. Yeah. Like, oh, I was like, this face is mine. And the funny thing is, all of the Genies, with the exception of Japan, because they can't be bald, all the guys who came in as Genie had to cut their hair, grow a goatee, and they had to find some way to do earrings. That's how I've been looking like that since I was 21 years old.
Wow, I didn't even think about how
incredible.
The look of the character is you. Is you. It's you.
The funny thing is, at all the genies, when the first thing they do is when they stop being genies is grow their hair back.
That's great.
So it's fun. Like if you look at all the genies, they all had to go bald, grow a goatee, or figure out something.
So it's interesting. I've heard Billy Porter talk about this in the past. That like he's like Kinky Boots like is me. Like that's my character. I originated that. I wrote that like in a lot of ways. Like that characterization and like I don't receive like royalty. I don't like get like a check in the mail like someone does who
Broadway doesn't do that. Broadway doesn't do that.
Sure, like. Is that like an old media kind of way of being stuck in the mud? Do you think that like art, like moving forward, like in the future of Broadway, like actors collaborating on their characters should be honored more? Like, you know, as you like now go into directing and like, you know, it's kind of an interesting balance.
What's funny is I think that there are ways to do it. And those are just things that are just not talked about. There are ways to honor the actor, and there are ways to make sure that the actor's taken care of without it being like, hey, we're going to tell the whole world this. Because the problem is, once for the longevity of a show, it can't be just about the person playing the role. If the show is going to last forever, like, okay, like Good Luck, Good Night is George Clooney.
Right.
If George Clooney's not there, most people ain't going to want to see the show. They came to see George play it because George did it in the movie. George doing it in the show. And I'm not saying his understudy is fabulous. I know he is. But you're coming to see George, and if the show ends, it ends. It ends. Whereas a Disney show or like Kinky Boots, Aladdin, things like that, the show has to last. So that person who originates the show, they've got to put their stamp on it. And if it's good enough, you will be able to find other actors who can step into those shoes to give it their flavor.
Right.
But the great thing is, myself and guys like Billy Porter, guys like Brian Stokes Mitchell, and all other guys, we are the standard. We are the ones that know. You get that soundtrack and it's our voice. You see that picture and it's us. We'll always be the ones who originated it. And there are ways to honor those guys, and no, yeah, sure. I mean, it all depends on how your contract is too. If your contract says, if I write this, blah, 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 but that's a whole thing that, you kind of don't want to let the sausage show how the sausage is made in those kind of situations.
Right. 100%.
Because then you start getting into place, because what ends up happening is then other actors who don't do what you do, but feel like they should get acknowledged. You're like, this is different.
Right.
This is different.
Oh, yeah.
So
I see. It's a trick. There's nuance to it. It's pretty nuanced.
Yes.
It's pretty nuanced.
So much nuance to it. Yeah.
So I have to.
Well, it's interesting because that's something. It segues into something that Dan was telling me about last night, which is that approach to Hamilton, and how it's like with it's.
Can I ask you about that, James? Because I'm good buddies with Fergie, and Fergie says hello.
Love that brother. Oh my God.
I asked Fergie what I should ask you about, and he's like, he said, ask him why when he forgets his lines and looks at Fergie, he expects him to help him on stage.
Listen, I definitely have an answer for that, and I know Fergie was expecting to like trip me up, but I don't know.
Okay, here we go.
No, I say this. If you're a good acting partner, Fergie, you should know everyone's lines because every now and then someone might forget, because we're human, and hopefully your acting partner won't let you drown. Hopefully your acting partner will go, I see your eyes. I see you're in the white room. Let me, and you know what the white room is, where you're just there and there's no words. There's no color.
I've been in it, baby. I love
the worst place to be. Yeah. The absolute worst place to be.
And hopefully, if your acting partner's worth their salt, Mr. Beast, who is now a Disney cousin, you will help your partner out. Now, I will say this. Yes, I am human. I have messed up my lines before, and as everybody does. But the funny part is, if you're egoless, we all have egos, but if you're egoless on stage, which you should be, you can go backstage and laugh about it and go, dude, I'm so sorry I left you hanging out there. Thanks for helping me out, please. And I will say, Fergie is a incredible acting partner.
He's the man. He's incredible. He's just
the man, and I am so proud of him. He is
I know,
what
right?
what he has done in his career and where he's about to go. The fact that he is about to be the Beast for Beauty and the Beast is just fantastic. I couldn't be happier for a person.
Oh my gosh, it warms my heart every time like I see him out there doing promo. You know what I mean? My favorite.
But he is my little brother, and when I do see him, even if he's bigger than me, I do push him into walls, and I don't care. What's he gonna do? I'm the boy.
I used to love your Burr's Corner that you used to do on Instagram.
Yes!
My favorite one, because when Fergie told me that, my girlfriend's like, oh yeah, James used to talk about like all the lyrics he would get wrong. And my favorite was, and I wrote it down because it inspired me to no end, every day while slaves were being sharded and carted away.
Sharded and carted away, baby.
Sharded and carted away. That's
yes. Listen, what the great part is, if anybody goes to Burr's Corner, hashtag Burr's Corner, it's not the fact that I said it, it's the fact that I wish people could have seen the look on Daniel Breaker's face.
Oh,
Daniel
man.
Breaker was playing Burr at the time. If anybody doesn't know Daniel Breaker, look him up. He's a great actor. He's also the original donkey in Shrek the Musical. That man, the look he gave me was everything. And then we get off stage, and he was like, is this how theater is? Is this what we're talking about? Oh my, is this what the original writer wanted? He goes, gosh, I miss legitimate theater. And he walks off camera because I always table. My lips, I had the words in my head, but my lips just said sharded and carded. He was like, sharded and carded.
Dude, I want to get that tattooed. Like it's so funny. Sharded and carded is like,
that's my favorite one. That is my favorite.
One-man show or something is sharded and carded. Yeah. I mean,
that was my favorite. Out of all my Burr's Corner, that was my favorite one. Oh my god!
Oh my goodness! As we talk about, I want to talk about originating Genie because, as my fans know, and I know you've seen some of my stuff, I do deep dives into character history in the parks, character costume history, and one of the things I was fascinated by in digging into Genie was that originally the concept of Genie was inspired by 1940s Fats Waller, the jazz musician,
yeah.
and there's lots of that like evident in it's still with his eyebrows, his big cheeks, some of the ways that the Genie dresses in the original movie, but like they were really like divisive about like, I don't know where this is going to go. And one animator just went rogue and animated Robin Williams doing it. But when you brought Genie back to Broadway, you brought Fats Waller back to the role. You brought that energy back. And I'm curious, like, was that how much, like, what kind of research did you do about like that 1940s energy that was once a part of it that like got cut?
The funny thing is, I have all the information in my head, but also then there's moments where like my brain will go blank and I can't remember people's names. But
that's okay.
What
Me
happened
too.
was Disney,
my whole life,
Disney, right here, Disney had licensed the film The Thief of Baghdad. That's where, and if you watch that old movie, The Thief of Baghdad, you will see so much of the cartoon in this film. And in that movie, the Genie was African American. And I can't remember the man's name.
Okay.
He's, if you can find it, Brendon, maybe. But the Thief of Baghdad, the Genie was played by. He was in Stormy Weather. He was just an amazing African American actor in Hollywood at the time. So that Genie, that first time people saw the Genie, it was a black man, and because most people don't talk about this. That's him. Yes, Rex Ingram. There were the Genies. He's even in the thing. He says the word master. It's a slave type of thing.
Interesting.
But
yeah,
when Howard Ashman,
I didn't even. James, you just gave me tingles. I never even thought about that aspect of like, whoa.
When you think about it, here he is. He's trapped. He comes out. He says, "Master has to go back." Think about the connotation.
That's heavy, man. That's heavy. This is a fun podcast.
right.
I think it's made even worse that it's played by Douglas Fairbanks.
Oh wait. Oh, you mean Jafar?
Yeah.
What's funny is if you look at the look of Jafar of Douglas Fairbanks and then look at the cartoon, a little similar. Trust me, they saw the film and without, but when they came to Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, Howard had this great idea. He said, wouldn't it be fun if the Genie was more big band and like Fats Waller and Cab Calloway like?
Yes.
But when Howard was such a powerhouse. He was kind of like Walt. I mean, I honestly believe this. Howard Ashman could have the story in his head, and if when he was gone, it was kind of like, what do we do with this? And that's when Goldberg, I think it's Eric Goldberg, had this idea about Robin, and they went that way, and it totally worked. But if you're going to do the show on Broadway, you cannot. I mean, I'm a rapper, and I also am a intermediate low level comedian. If I've done stand up before,
give
but
yourself
you don't
more credit.
Yeah, you came up with the line "sharded and carded."
Fight that imposter syndrome. You fight that imposter syndrome. You sharding master.
Thank you.
Sharding and carding,
but you don't right. I'm definitely gonna make that my show now. You don't bite off you don't bite off other MCs, and you don't steal from other comedians. So the whole thing of we can't do Robin because that would be disrespectful to that guy. So then one day I knew I got the part, and I was a little nervous about what to do. And then of all people, I was talking to the legendary, Jonathan Freeman. And Jonathan, who is the original voice of Jafar and also the one who played Jafar on Broadway with us, he looks at me and he goes, Howard and Alan wanted it to be an African-American. They wanted it to be Fats Waller type of character with Cab Calloway-esqueness. And I was like, once he said that, I felt free. I felt like all of a sudden everything had lifted because I had done Ain't Misbehaving before. I loved Cab Calloway. I'm a big Blues Brothers fan. I love all of his music. I love the way he moved in the Cotton Club. I love the way he moved in Stormy Weather. I love watching Fats in those films. And I studied Fats because I had to do the show Ain't Misbehaving. So all of a sudden my brain went, I can go a whole different place with this.
You were perfectly trained for it.
Nothing to do with I was in the perfect place. I could go a whole different place because there is the Black experience of stand-up comedy, the Black experience of Broadway that I could bring to this that would be totally different from what Robin did. So all of a sudden, the jokes I was bringing to rehearsal was a whole different thing. And they were like, whoa, what's this coming from? There was a joke that we cut, and I'm so sad. It literally lasted the reading. It was in the script, and there was he says, Genie, do you have any wishes? He was like, well, sure I have wishes. I have dreams. I wish I can, I wish I could get married and, have a harem and have a couple genies, have a harem and have a couple genies. I took that and I said, instead, the line is, well, sure I have wishes. Sure I have a dream. I said, well, sure I have wishes. I have a dream that one day I'll have a harem, maybe a couple genies or two, and the room fell out, and I was like, I can make that joke. I'm a Black dude. I can turn Genie into Martin Luther King. And for a couple days we had
so good.
That's amazing, man.
For a couple days we had Martin Luther King, and then I threw Darth Vader in there. I was Prince. I was Michael. I had all kinds of things that we just did, and then we were like, then of course the Disney people were like, that might cost money. That might cost. Can we? We had all these wonderful. Because if you think about it, I say, you get a wish, you get a wish, you get a wish, and it's basically Oprah. I just can't say her name.
Right.
So if you watch me do it, it's definitely, and the audience got it. But these are things that I could do because I was Black, and bringing that in. And if you listen to the original movie, every time Genie comes in, his music is big band. But what's really funny is this is an Alan Menken thing. It's one of my favorite moments of Little Shop of Horrors, the movie. Watch the film again, and every time they go to the plant, a Hammond B3 gospel organ comes in. And if you don't think about it, it's only whenever they've panned to the plant, these gospel chords come in, and then they go back to Seymour. It goes back to Broadway. Alan is very slick about throwing things in to let you know where we are, and they did that. And so I just embraced it and was like, cool, let's run. And it was so much. That was my in. I was like, okay, now I know where I can jump in. So I will pay homage to Robin's creativity, but I can do it my way. And also to be Genie-esque. If you look at the character, it is Robin Williams, but it's Robin with the volume turned up. So I said, great. I will do this with my volume turned up to 20. All the dumb things that I do in the grocery store to my wife. I am a prop person. She hates taking me shopping because I've gotten to a fight with a giant pet teddy bear in the ice cream section. I'm the guy that takes the fly swatters and does dumb shit with them around. Sorry, I'm Disney. But I literally, My wife is like, we're getting in this mall. If don't you do anything, and I'm like, you're right. Yes, that's not going to happen. And the music, if I hear music, it's over. She's like, yeah, but thank you, thank you. So
I volunteered for my daughter did her first musical, Frozen Junior. She's in middle school, and I'm like, well, hey, your dad's Disney Dan, baby. Like, I've been on Broadway. I could let me come and help. Let me come out. And my daughter's like, no. Absolutely not. And I was like, well, let me do concessions. She's like, okay, fine, but you have to show up as Dad and not Disney Dan. Do we have an agreement? You cannot be doing your bits. You just sell people candy and soda and then leave. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that. Fine.
How old is your daughter?
12.
my kids would go. I always told them. I said, guys, listen, act normal in public. I said, because I have no problem being abnormal in public, and I will embarrass you. So if you don't want me to attract the crowd, I suggest you guys act like normal people, because you know me. You're like, they're looking at us. Damn straight they're looking at us. So if you don't want nobody to look at us, you better act like a normal person. So they know.
Amazing.
So I took all that ridiculousness and put it into the show, and we found places for where, Genie could be his best, and where he could be his, also some of the moments I loved were the moments where we really got to be real and emotional. There was a moment between Aladdin and I where when Aladdin tells me he's not going to give me, the third wish, and we really decided to not play it like a musical. We said, no, we're gonna be a play here. Let's really have some deep fun here, because this is a real situation. Because no matter how fanciful your story is, if you have a real concrete relationship, the audience will go with you anywhere. And so we had people were mad at Aladdin, but so we were like, he's got to turn around, or else they're gonna burn this place to the ground. So it was great. It was fun.
What's the weirdest moment you can remember during your Genie run? Like, what is the strangest thing that's happened to you that you like, was there a poltergeist present one day, or like, did anything insane happen? Because you're Genie, so you can get away with it. So what was the biggest fumble or something?
A lady decided to take out her phone and start taping. And I was like, in every other show, if you break the fourth wall, unless it's written in there, it'll take away from the show.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of Friend Like Me, and I'm a part of Freestyle Love Supreme, which is an improv hip hop group. So, I go, off the dome all the time. And so I just started making up lyrics to the lady, and I was like, hey, lady, don't you know that you're not alone? I can see you, lady. Please put down your blue phone. And she's like, oh, my God. I was like, yes, we're talking to you.
If Patti LuPone could only work her anger into song lyrics when she wants to reprimand the audience, like the Master James. So, Patti, please take notes. James is teaching you an expert way.
Let me tell you something. When the other person who did that was Lynn. They were in Puerto Rico. Some lady took out her phone, and Lynn changed the lyrics to "I'm not throwing away my shot" to freestyle about the lady to put her phone away, and then jump back on the lyrics as if nothing happened. And the cast lost their freaking mind. But once this podcast was over, we can talk about the Patti LuPone moment, because I know some information about that most people don't know. So
I can't. I love podcast teases where we get to know things that you don't.
I
feel so honored to be in this room right now.
What was the best? Okay, one last question about Genie. What was the best guest? What was the best celebrity that pushed through the space that you got to meet? That you're like, oh, I can't believe I got to act for this person. I can't believe I got to lay down for this person.
I will tell you, and it's not even a shock for me. It was Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh my goodness!
Actually, that's not true. There were two. There were two, and here's the reasons why. Whoopi Goldberg and Sarah Michelle Gellar. And here's why.
I love this combo.
Whoopi Goldberg is one of my comic heroes. I love solo shows, and to me, there are like only a handful. I can count them on one hand of the people who went on Broadway to do solo shows that were so magnificent. And Whoopi Goldberg's first show, Whoopi Goldberg Live, is one of them. And I studied. It came on HBO when I was a kid, and I watched it. I studied it. I found the video, found the album. She won a Grammy for it. It was the most amazing thing. And then, of course, she becomes friends with Billy Crystal and Robin Williams, so she knows them so well. I'm doing the show. I know she's there, but I'm just like, cool, I'm get to perform for Whoopi. I get to perform for my hero. Also, in college, a young lady wanted to direct one piece, the Fontaine piece of Whoopi Goldberg's one-woman show, and cast me as Fontaine. And I was so excited because I knew it, and I got to play it and embody it and kind of just live in my hero's shoes for a little bit. I get backstage, and I'm still in Genie costume, and Whoopi's there. But Whoopi sees me and gets down on her knees and bows. And I start crying like a baby. And she gets up and she goes, "Baby, what's wrong?" And I tell her, I said, "You don't understand how much this means to me. I have studied you. I've watched you. There's not a movie you're in that I haven't seen. You, as a black actress who has come out and went on Broadway, and you were by yourself. There was no set. It was just you. And for you to look at me and say this, I lost my mind." And then she said, "You don't understand. Robin would love this."
Oh,
my goodness.
So then, Whoopi and I have become friends. I still can't believe I can text her. I still can't believe I can text her and she'll call me back. And
that's
blah, blah, blah.
wild, man.
Sarah Michelle Gellar comes backstage and she has her daughters with her. And we're meeting her. And then she pulls me aside because Sarah Michelle was the last one to do a TV show with Robin Williams. And she said, "I want you to know something." She said, "Robin saw your performance." I said, "He came to the show?" She goes, No. He saw the clips that you did. And he looks at me and he says, "That kid's good." And he said,
"Wow,
I'm so glad." He goes, "I'm so glad he said, I'm so glad he's not doing me. He's doing his own thing. That's how you should do it." He goes, and he says, I need to see the show." And then that didn't happen, of course.
Yeah.
And she looks at me and she says, "I just wanted you to know that he said that about you." And then she says, I have two genies in my life now. And Sarah and I have been friends. Sarah and I have been friends ever since. And like her daughter comes over, she's like, "Why are you guys crying?" And she's like, "We'll tell you later." And Sarah and I swear I was done. I swear between those two, Sarah.
Yeah, seriously.
Sarah, I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of people from Aladdin, but those two moments in my time there meant
wow.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
It's amazing that you say that because I know that Whoopi sent you off on the show for your final performance, which is a wild moment, which is like a crazy thing to happen. How did the audience? That was her was the audience warned at all that Whoopi was going to pop up? As an audience member, if Whoopi Goldberg would have popped out of the floor instead of you, I would have freaked out. No,
they weren't. They didn't see it coming. They didn't know what was happening. It was a surprise. And the fun part is, I always make jokes about people with phones. I'm glad we talked about that first. I knew she was coming, and I knew I wasn't going to be coming out of the Genie, lamp. So I put my phone in my pocket, and I said, "I don't know if I'm going to be brave enough or have the balls to do this, but if I do, I'm hoping I do." So right before I took her off, I said, hold on. I said, "I have to get a picture of this moment." I said, "I know you guys pulled out your phones too, even though you know you shouldn't, but if you're going to do it, this is now the time to do it." And I took a selfie of us on stage, and as I'm running off, I swear to God, someone caught me right before I came on stage, and they're going, "We're going to need a copy of that from Disney. We're going to need a copy of that." And sure enough, that's the picture that they put at the end of the view, because they were like, "We wish we would have thought about it. The fact that you thought about it." We were like, "How are we going to get a picture of this?" I was like, so they have a picture of me taking a picture, but they also have the picture of the actual. It was so cool. It was so cool for her, and it was her idea to
That's awesome.
She didn't have
That's
to.
amazing. That's so cool. That's amazing. Well, hey, you're here for a very special reason. I don't want to bury the lead, all right? Because you're nominated again for another Tony. And to get into this bit, hold on, I have another bit.
Oh my God.
What is it like? Whenever I talk about you to my friends, and I hope you're okay with me saying that you are the unofficial scat king of Broadway. You have scatted now as the Genie, as King Arthur, and now Louis Armstrong. Yes. No one else holds the candle to your scat skills. Are you comfortable being called the scat king of Broadway?
No. Do you understand what that
means? As soon as he said it, I'm like, I don't think that's...
You cannot. You cannot put that on the Manhattan streets. You understand?
Oh, you can. People do. People do.
Yeah, okay.
You're not wrong. But all I keep thinking about is, I was like, that title is good from 8 a.m. till 6 o'clock. The minute it turns 7 to midnight, the people
as
that
soon
are going
as
to come
night
to
service
me,
starts on the E. Night service on the E, then we're done.
Yeah, you don't want to be called the Scat
the
King.
minute the sun goes down, it's like, oh, Jesus.
That's a different type of Scat King.
Now, I don't want to brag. I don't want to brag here, and I also don't want to seem weird, James, but I have seen you originate a lot of roles. I saw the original cast of Aladdin. I came to, and I don't know if you remember, we shook hands and grabbed a picture when I came to see in Washington your originating of King Arthur, because I had just done King Arthur, and I was like, yeah, man, because I love like a big guy as King Arthur. It's always like a little, Weasley dude, but like it just brings a presence, and also the smaller Patsy can be, like when you're sitting, like it's even better. It's even better. It's even better. Mm-hmm. But so your Spamalot, your King Arthur is incredible. Can the moment Alex Brightman did the call and repeat with you, where you had to repeat, and sorry kids, never had a fucking friend like me, and then you belt it. It's one of the greatest moments I think I've ever witnessed in a theater in my entire life. I nearly blacked out. I laughed so hard. Where did that moment come from? I just have to ask.
Alex said that no matter what happens, he was not going to tell me what he was going to do as one of the Knights of Ni, and whatever happens, happens, and you just have to go with it. And we have had some great ones. That was a good one. The other one was when we were in DC, he sang Sweet Caroline, and I did not know the lyrics. I only knew, the dun, dun, dun. And he said, and he looks at me and he goes, and in his voice, he goes, "You don't know a lot of songs, do you?" And the audience laughed. And then I said, in King Arthur's voice, I said, "Well, I am black."
Murdered. I bet that murdered.
And he was like, he just looks at me. And to be able to stop Alex Brightman is a feather in my cap that I will keep for the rest of my life.
My goodness.
Because the audience laughed, because all of the brothers that were in the show, they were like, "Yeah, man, I don't know not one damn Neil Diamond song at all." I said, you picked the white. I said, I know many white artists. I said, man, I know Michael McDonald. I know Bobby Caldwell. I said, you picked the whitest of the white. I know Frank Sinatra. Why did you pick the white guy? Because if you go to any, I'm sorry, I'm not being racist, but if the Sweet Caroline, dun dun dun, that is the white call. If there is a war that's going to happen, white people are going to go, "Sweet Caroline, da, da," and everybody's running. Now, for us, it's probably, going to be some Stevie Wonder tune. So it just tickled me so much that we got to play that joke, because also, King Arthur's never been black. So we got to play with a lot of things that the show, like, I'll never forget when Eric Idle came to see the show. And he didn't know we were going to do the Kniggets line, which is one of my favorite. In the movie, John Cleese says, "You and all your English Kniggets." Well, during rehearsal, I looked, and as a joke, he said Kniggets. I said, "What'd you say?" And they were like, and I broke the accent. And our director goes, "We can't keep that." And we were like, "Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. So we absolutely can."
We honestly didn't know how it was going to play. And every night, that joke killed. And it was really just us, Alex, myself, Rob McClure, Nick Walker, just people just acting like complete idiots. And, Chris Fitzgerald, I mean, these guys, Michael Urie.
It was an all-star. I can't believe the cast I saw in that. I can't believe it. How did that even happen?
It's a big cast of improv people too. People who really,
and also Leslie Kritzer. I mean, we had comedians. We had folks that were powerhouses.
Yes.
Ethan,
Nikki Walker. Nikki was like, I saw Hamilton right after you left. I saw Hamilton. It makes me so sad. But Nikki Walker as Aaron Burr had to be one of the most transcendent performances I have ever seen on the American stage. He sets up I never understood it. Watching it on Disney Plus, you all think, oh, I've seen Hamilton. You haven't. You have to go see Hamilton, because seeing the arc set up of like Aaron wanting to be in the room, wanting to be part of it, and then Nikki in the second act, when they're in that room, he's practically floating in the back of the stage, like, I'm in the room where it's happening. And it was the most incredible piece of theater I've ever seen. Nikki, I
always laugh because I have seen so many. Now, what's funny is I love that you mentioned Nick Walker and you mentioned Fergie, because we are like Three Musketeers, the three of us. We're like brothers.
I would love to see a production of Three Musketeers with the three of you. Can we arrange that?
Great. Yes, we can. Because there's actually a musical out there of Three Musketeers that I want to direct. I did it years ago, and I want to revamp it, but that's a whole different story. The Nick Walker, I've seen many Burrs, and I've seen many amazing Burrs. I mean, incredible Burrs. But Nick Walker's Burr, I have teased Nick about this in the most positive way. Nick, in his heart of hearts, has always felt like the underdog, who has always done his best, who has always worked so hard, and there's always something in his way. What's funny is it's so fun to watch him in his career now, because he knows, he's come into his own, and the confidence that Nick Walker brings to something is incredible. But Nick brought his high school self to Burr. And if you really watch Hamilton, trust me, Alexander Hamilton is the hero of the show. But there was one night we were backstage. We were all, just watching the situation with, Nick as Burr, and we were going. It's after the wedding scene, and they walk out and they start teasing Burr about this other woman, and I realized, oh my God, we're the bullies.
Yeah.
Lafayette and Hamilton, and we are the Mulligan. We're the bullies.
Yeah.
And you don't think about it because you're playing the role, and the guy you're with, if you look at it from that point of view, here's poor Burr, who is doing everything right, following the rules, doing what he's supposed to do, and this guy who's breaking all the rules, and his homeboys who are bullying him are getting ahead. And you watch that arc, the way Nick played it, by the time he gets to room where it happens and he's not in the room, you almost feel justified for Burr. He shouldn't shoot him, and it's the way Nick played him. And I always tell him to this day, I said, it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life to watch Nick go through that arc. And it was heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because by the end, Nick's in tears because he's like, now I've done all, he said, and when I finally did the bad thing, I'm still the bad guy. He did all the bad things. He's a good guy. I do one bad thing, and now I'm the bad guy forever. Oof. And it's written that way, but it all depends on how your Burr plays it, because your Burr can play it sexy. He can play it this way. But he literally played it as this high school kid who's like just trying to do it the right way, and the popular kids are doing it. Right. It was a brilliant performance, and I love Nick Walker, and I tease him as well. And he is someone also that no matter how big he gets, I push him into walls just so he knows that I do this.
Brendon mentioned it a little bit earlier, and we kind of got sidetracked from talking about it. But before we talk about Wonderful World, the thing that I'm fascinated about Hamilton, and as you as an actor going into it, and knowing Fergie, I finally understood this about Hamilton. Again, you think you've seen it on Disney Plus, you haven't seen the show, is that Hamilton, and I was telling Brendon about this last night, almost encourages you to re-originate the role when you step into it, so that you and it's so anti-modern Broadway in a way, because people want to come back, they want to see Mamma Mia the way it was opened, they want to see whatever, they even want to see Genie the way that, with a goatee and a shaved head. They want Genie, they want that longevity. But it kind of goes against what you were talking about earlier, that Hamilton's like, no, you are the character. We don't hit the beats, be where you're supposed to be, but this is you. And watching it's incredible. It's incredible to witness. How did that hit you as an actor after doing so much replica stuff?
It felt great. It felt wonderful. And also the guys who created the show, I'm really good friends with. So Tommy Kail, who directed the show, he talked to me. He said, no. I said, are you sure you want me to play this role? He said, well, I said, I'm not Diggs. And Diggs is also my homeboy. And he was like, David Diggs, by the way. He was like, no, we know you're not Diggs, which is why we want you. We want you to bring you to it. And I must say, there's only two characters, and there's only two shows on Broadway that you're really allowed to do that. Hamilton and Genie. Every Genie is different. Every Genie brings their own personality and comedy with the volume turned up. So they're not emulating me. They're emulating, like, every Genie you see is going to be different. And that's the fun part about Aladdin. But in Hamilton, you can see the show, but you're going to see whatever that actor brings to it.
Yes.
And the funny part is when I looked at Jefferson, like Lafayette is Lafayette, that you have to kind of be that way. But with Jefferson, I looked at it as for those old heads, Apollo Creed. He was Apollo Creed.
Wow.
And so, and if you look at it, if you look at it, there's two fights. There's the fight that Apollo knew he was going to win, and then he wasn't expecting Rocky to be good. He won the fight, but he lost the war. And then there's the second one where he says, no shucking, no jiving, just business. And he goes into the second fight and completely knows he beat Rocky. Here's the funny part. So when I did Jefferson, the first fight, the first rap battle, the first cabinet battle we do, I come in cocky. I'm playing around. I'm even doing like little jabs and stuff, kind of like Apollo Creed. Mm-hmm. And then I lose, and I can't believe. I mean, I won, but I can't believe I lost to this upstart. So the next time we do it, I have trained. I'm serious. I know what I'm doing. No shucking, no jiving, just business. And there were a couple of Washingtons that this is a real subtle acting thing. But as I'm rapping, I look over at Washington and I see his eyes, and he's looking at me, and I realize, this is a setup. I was never going to win this fight in the beginning. You and Hamilton already have a deal. So this is just preliminary BS, which is why the next thing we go into the room where it happens. And when I explained that that's how I saw it to Tommy was like, play that.
That's cool.
That is what's going to make the audience want to hate you, but also you hate Hamilton. And it was also fun because I am a big guy. I'm 6 foot. I'm over 200 pounds. Most of the guys are not. So I said, I know I can sing in the key, but can I talk in my baritone voice? Because some of my Hamiltons were really small. So I was towering, and the ones that were tall, that were towering over me, I just used my size. So I literally was like, physically like bullying folks to the point where my dear friend,
pushing them into walls.
My dear friend, my dear friend, Javon McFerrin, the son of Bobby McFerrin, was playing Hamilton one night.
Whoa! What?
He was having a moment, and I said, "Look, I know you're having a moment today. Let's just get it out on stage. Let's get it out on stage."
Wow!
And we got in each other. We were forehead to forehead, like rapping like this. And our musical director got so scared. He was like, "Are you guys okay?" We were like, "Yeah." I was like, he was like, "Oh, I thought you guys hated each other." I was like, "No." I was like, and sometimes theater is cathartic. You can't do the physical things you want to do outside in the world, but in theater, you can. If you and your, that's why I talk about you're messing up lines. If you and your acting partner trust each other enough, I told Javon, "Look, man, go for it. I can handle it. Give me what you need to get this out of you." And we went in on those two battles, and then we hugged and cried at the end, and he was like, "Thank you, I just need to get it out." I said, "Bro, I get you, bro, I got you."
Wow.
And it was just fun to play it that way, and each person takes their roles differently. As long as you do what Lynn wrote, as long as you hit your beats, and as long as your intentions are correct, you can play it the way you want to play it.
If you're an actor and you're really like wanting to study the craft in an interesting way, I highly recommend you watching Disney Plus Hamilton, the pro shot, and then going to see the performance live and witnessing it being almost completely rewritten. Not though, but almost in its energy, like completely rewritten. It's
because you also can't give the audience the same thing every night. Theater is a living thing. It's 8 shows a week. You cannot do the same thing because sometimes your energy on a Tuesday is going to be different than your energy on Friday. It's going to be different than your energy at the last matinee on Sunday. So you've got to find your show. And I always tell actors, find your A show, which is the greatest thing you ever, with all your energy, you've slept, you've eaten, you've got everything. Find your B show, and then find your C show when you know you have a sinus infection, but you still need to come to work because your understudy's on vacation and nobody cares whether you're sick or not because those people paid all that money to see the thing. They don't care if you have a cough. Figure it out. You know what I mean? So you have your A show, your B show, your C show, and you're gonna whenever you come to Broadway, you're gonna see a great show. But there's gonna be something different, and the energy, and you have to rely on your other castmates to be there for you to help lift you up.
We have a mantra in our household here. We are not a museum. Like we're not expected to have everything placed correctly every day. Everything doesn't have to be polished and dusted. We are a living organism. We are not a museum, is what we like to say. We are imperfect.
Now, I just want to say that is the greatest thing ever. But does anybody see the ironicness of Disney Dan saying, "We are not a museum. We don't have anything," with all that stuff behind him? You know damn well that when this thing is over, he is going right over to Animal and be like, "That hair is out of place." No.
Actually, you want to know what's funny, James? Here, this trunk here is an original Muppet Vision trunk from Disneyland's California Adventure, from Electric Mayhem in the queue. This is their Love Beads. It's actually a hidden speaker because these are real road cases, and so when the ride closed, they just sold all the unmodified road cases to a band. But the two that had speaker cutouts, they dumped, and I got them on eBay for about $400. I have the tie-dyed scarves and love beads.
They just closed.
This is the one from Disneyland that closed like a decade ago.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is an original Muppet Vision prop back here, So yeah, man. I
But
go
remember,
hard.
it is not a museum.
We're not a museum. We're not a museum.
I have told folks who works for I've told Disney, I've told folks that work for the Muppets, my only other Disney dream besides, maybe directing a Disney show is to sing with the Electric Mayhem. That, from the time I was a kid and I first heard Can You Picture That, I was like, I want to sing.
James, they're going to open up this new roller coaster. Electric Mayhem's on this new coaster. Get your agent to call him. Tell him. Start pushing.
I am so
Start pushing to be there for the opening.
Also, just to be a Disney nerd for a second, have you ever ridden the Rock and Roller Coaster and when it shoots off, the first song is Sweet Emotion? That is the coolest thing because you're going sweet and you hit the loop right on Sweet Emotion. It's so dope.
It's so good. It's such a great. I can't wait to see what they do with it. Muppets. R.I.P. Muppet Vision.
Me too.
R.I.P. Muppet Vision.
I'm excited.
All right, James. I have here my playbill from something that I have to say it made me weep. I was moved in a way that like big movie musician biopics move me. I didn't know what to expect, and I came in like truly, I left my mind broken, and I'm just okay. The first thing I want to ask is because only because your agent told me to, because I confused it. There's a difference between Louis Armstrong and Louis Armstrong, from what I understand. Can you enlighten us about the difference between those two names?
Yes. So Louis's name, he's born Louis Armstrong, but and also I have to say, I'll say it the politically correct way, and I'll say it the unpolitically correct way. So the politically correct way is also Louis is French, and he's from Louisiana, and there are a lot of Creole people there, so you could say Louis, and it's short for Louis. But there is also this thing, not with there's an older generation that feels like they have to shorten. There's an older generation of white men who feel like they have to shorten everybody's name. So it's like, hi, I'm James. Can I call you Jim? No, you cannot. You cannot call me Jim. And so when Louis got to Hollywood, everybody called him, all the white people called him Louis. Oh, hey, I'm Louis. Hey, I'm Louis Armstrong. Hey, Louis, nice to meet you. And it kind of stuck because how do you correct these men at that time in history?
Yeah.
So, but if you listen to Hello, Dolly, he says, hello, Dolly, this is Louis. And he really emphasizes the S. So it is Louis Armstrong. It is, but also he calls himself Louis, but it is Louis. But here's the fun part. His first wife called him Louis. And his second wife, as a tease, called him Louis. Third wife called him Louis, and second wife called him Louis and Louis. All depends on if she was mad at him.
Amazing. You co-directed A Wonderful World, and I have to. I want to ask.
And Christina Sajou.
Yeah, I have to ask, what is it? You have a passion for directing, and I want to talk about the show as a whole here. But before we do that, and we've talked a lot about originating, how you've interacted with directors, how directors have inspired you and lifted you up. Like, as an acting director, which I think are very special people, how did you approach it? Like, what was your, you've directed before, but this is like a big deal, man. This is like a Broadway musical. Yeah. Like, what was it like?
It was fascinating. One of the hardest things I've ever done because you have to have your mind you have to have your head on the swivel constantly. But it really was about taking the story. We had we had a story and we did it out of town and it just wasn't really clicking. And so I said, I have some ideas. Can I help? And in saying that, we ended up being negotiated into being one of the co-directors because for a musical, the director's kind of in the the chair of how things should go. And so my friend Christina Sajou and I helped Chris Renshaw, the main director, guide the show where it should go. So, I was saying, look, I've done all this study about Louis and his music and him as a person. I've read all his books and I've read the books about him. I know how this story should go. And as far as a musical, how do we make this interesting? So we went back to the drawing board. We went out of town for 2 shows. We went to Louisiana and Chicago. By the time we got to New York, we went back to the drawing board. We went into a room for like 7 months and just rewrote the whole thing.
Wow.
And,
okay. So you stepped in as like a story doctor, like a story expert, like in a lot of ways. Like you did a character study and you knew him. You knew the guy. And you're like, this isn't the guy.
Yeah. Also, I know musicals and I've done them for years. And I was like, this is what I feel will work. And then when it came time to actually direct the show, you don't want to confuse the cast of like who's in charge. So they knew the 3 of us were a collective unit. So what we would do is in the morning, we would set up what we were going to do. And then we would say our piece and then have Chris actually say what we were saying. So Chris got to, say what the directing team
wise.
said.
That's unbelievably wise in a space like that.
Yeah.
And then in certain situations where, Chris was like, well, I know what I want to do, James, and I would step in and say, okay, guys, this is what's going to... So there's a scene where King Joe is talking to his band about the gun situation. And so that particular scene, I physically directed. I physically directed a scene between myself and my wife, a couple scenes between myself and my wife. And then when the ladies come in at the beginning, we were like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And then Christina Sajou did a lot of the big scenes that you see, like a lot of the crowd scenes. Those were directed by her. Chris did some of the intimate scenes.
It's a collaborative effort.
Came in, of course.
Like, truly.
So definitely a collaborative effort. But we really did step in, like, actually direct. And, like, I would walk up to actors and say, listen, I understand that I'm an actor with you. I'm going to be a director in this moment. Do you mind me giving you a note? If you
love that.
I will.
Yeah,
James, I love that so much.
Because you also don't want the actors to think, okay, great, he's just directing me and not himself. And like, no. It's like, please. I said, please give me notes. Someone said, do you not want me to give you notes in front of the actors? Like, no, give me notes in front of the actors so they understand what's happening. Yeah. And I also worked a lot with the music team by connecting scenes. No, let's stop here. The music should come in here. This is what's going to make this. So we really did that. And then during tech, we were outside. I was like my alternate, Mr. James T. Lane, who also played Louis on Wednesday nights and Thursday afternoons. He would be on stage and we'd be back there watching, going, no, that should go here. Put that light here. No, that's not going to work. So and then I would get on stage and do it and go, how's it look now with me in it? Because I'm taller. And so it was very much a collaborative moment.
Wow. And how would you swap between, because you'd have to approach it, I assume, with director brain, but then actor brain. Yeah. So how would you alternate between the two?
That was the hardest part, only because I was so into the directing part that I was like, oh, right, I'm an actor here. And the funny part is that I really didn't get into actor brain until we started running it. So, like, as long as we were in rehearsals, I was definitely in director brain. And the minute it came time for, like, run-throughs, like, okay, we're going to run it twice today. We're going to run it. My brain had to shift. And when I said I would go home and woodshed to learn all my lines, because we were rewriting as we were putting the show together. So I was never off book until like the last 2 weeks in the rehearsal room because everything was new. And I was one of the ones saying, no, he should say this, or and we would talk about the script and all that kind of stuff. So once we got into run-throughs, my brain, I shifted, and I told the directing team, I said, okay, I'm going to shift now and be in acting mode. I said, I won't get back in directing mode till we get to tech, so let's just do this.
Oh, that's cool. That's a nice, like, that's like, I guess, managing your energy better, in a way. Yeah. We're only a finite amount of energy, you know what I mean? We can't run endlessly. So as the show was being developed, was it always, and what I think is so cool is that it's from the perspective of his 4 wives. And that is a unique kind of like way to tell a man's story, because who knows him better and most intimately than his partner, his wife, and it's a story of humility, honestly, of Louis' journey. And I'm curious, like, what was it like developing that story? And was that like always part of it? Or is that something that kind of like fell into it like later when you rewrote it, like the four wives?
No, the 4 wives were always there. And actually, the 4 wives were the narrators originally. And when we were out of town, they were the narrator. And the feedback that we got was that we had a Louis Armstrong show without enough Louis in it. Because the ladies were telling his story. And the concept that I told
this
them
isn't
about
Louis
was,
6.
Yes, right, exactly.
We're one of a kind. He played his trumpet.
And then he scattered and sharded. You can't do that. I also, it's hard for me to listen to that soundtrack of Six because I love those movies. We are 60. My brain immediately starts.
I can't drive and listen to it because
so good.
I have to do the choreo. Yes, it really is.
I was like, this choreography is amazing, Jesus. So, but the funny thing with that was originally like the ladies were the narrators, but Louis wrote 2 autobiographies. And Louis deliberately wrote his story and he was a prolific writer. He wrote all the time. There are constant letters of him writing all the time. One of the things that people don't know about Louis was that how much of a writer he was. He always had a typewriter in his dressing room, and once the show was over, he was constantly writing, checking things, sending letters and corresponding with different people around the world. That's just what he did. He deliberately did that because he was afraid of someone else writing his story. He was afraid of someone else telling his story, not the way he wanted it told. And I told them, I said, guys, I think the way to get in our show is we have to have the ladies help him tell the story. I said, but what I think is fun is, what if he told his story, and everybody knows how we as men are. We always tell our version, and then our ladies or our partners go, now you know that's not what happened. You know that's not what happened.
Right.
So we said, let's do it that way, because then Louis can tell his manly, mansplaining version of his story. And then when we get into the scenes, the women can go, no, this is what really happened, and have that. And that will be a fun moment because then you're getting the story, but you're also getting, the history. And if you put those together, you'll get what really happened somewhere in the middle. That's how that came about. And also he had 4 very strong women in his life, and without them, he wouldn't be who he became.
No way. It's the rise of him, and like the way that he had to battle with the government, just with the patriarchy, with the power, with white patriarchy, like almost at like every turn, it's powerful, and it's like almost like you expect there to be that pushback, of course, because we're used to it, but the nuance of the pushback is so much more hurtful because they knew how to hurt him. They knew how to beat him up. You know what I mean? And he got beat up a lot, not also, like physically, but emotionally.
Yes, he did. He did emotionally. But what I love about Louis and what made his story different for me is like there's always this moment in a story. I call them racial drama. I call them racial trauma shows, where it's like we want to show. We want to show whatever the black man, whatever the Jewish man, whatever the lady, whatever the LGBTQ person is going through. But the whole time we have to show them, basically getting, the last justice of Jesus whipping for 2 hours. It's like, Jesus Christ. And the one thing, and I'm like, and it's almost like, I'm so glad we're telling this story. But at the same time, I'm like, Jesus, I'm exhausted. Is there any happiness in the world? Is every white person just terrible? They can't all be bad. So for me, I think what I loved about Louis's story was Louis decided to fight differently. He knew that the one thing that nobody could fight against was music, because music doesn't have a language. Music is a language that everybody can understand. There's no physical way of speaking it so that, you're speaking a different language, I can't understand you. You come from a different side of the tracks, I can't understand you. Once you hear a rhythm, you either like it or you don't.
Right.
Louis always said, there's only 2 types of music. There's the good and the bad. And that's it. You know what I mean? That's it. And so his way was showing, I know how to show how beautiful I am. I know how to show how beautiful our people are. I'm going to play this music. And you're going to look at me like a black man. But the minute I play this horn, you're going to change your perspective. Not only that, not only are you going to be a fan of mine, you're going to want to shake my hand because you had a great night. And you don't know why you had a great night. Right. And that for me always made me so happy. But the one time, because the one time that Louis did speak up, exactly what you knew happened. The minute he said something, America had to like blacklist him, be mad, blah, blah, but as long as he was playing his music, they couldn't say anything because music touches people.
Right.
No matter what it is, music touches people. All over the world, everybody's listening to different styles of music, and they can't be mad at the music. So that's what made me happy about this, because Louis found two ways of fighting. He knew he had to speak up. There was a moment where he couldn't just let the music speak anymore. He had to say something and stand for something. And once he stood for something, that made him even more of a legend, because not only was his music powerful, but he was like, I know I'll come back. I don't know when. And the way he came back, of all of the things, he came back with freaking Hello, Dolly.
Yeah.
To the point where it knocked the Beatles out of #1. Every white person and their mama loves it. The black people love it. Everybody, really? It's like, what a way to win back. And then win back, and then look at them and go, look, I don't have to win back America. I just did a good song. And everything I said with music proves I'm right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, he as a man always made me laugh, because he as a man had to mature. Because, I hate people always said, you can't really say he's a man of his time. I'm like, yeah, they are. Louis Armstrong, Walt Disney, all these people, they're men of their time. And if you judge them on 2020, if you judge them on 2025 standards, of course they're going to be horrible or this or that.
Short,
just the same way that whoever judges us in 2050 will look at us and say, how can you say so-and-so is so-and-so is this or so-and-so? It's like, the times have changed. So Louis learned. With his first wife, he was too young. With his second wife, he was stupid. With his third wife, he was in a midlife crisis. And with his fourth wife said, either get your stuff together or you can get the hell out. And that was when he was like, oh, I need to be a grown-up.
Right.
And he became the man he is. And what most people don't know is Louis was married to Lucille for 38 years. And, I mean, come on. He got his shit together.
Yeah.
It took a minute, but it happened.
Yeah, it took a minute. You've teased us with his voice a little bit. How did you find it? Because it's so unique. And I just want to say really quick, if I can, as a big guy who's out there doing shows, always like nervous that, I can't be a big guy to do this role because that guy he's 100 pounds lighter than me, or whatever it is, 50. When I saw the show, it's so wild to me, because I left home and I started watching clips on YouTube, and I was like, no, that's not Louis Armstrong. That's not Louis Armstrong. You know what I mean? Because you smashed it and you like reinvented him in my mind, which is such like I hope it's a compliment. Like you like made him a new person. How did you find that guy? Because was it hidden behind your goatee? Was it hidden behind your goatee the whole time?
Right.
So how did you? I want to know how you found Louis, because even when you start to smile and laugh, like I just see him. He like reappears, and it like warms my heart a little bit. And so what was that journey like?
It was a fun journey, because I was watching clips of him, and I was like, oh, how's he talk? And how's he sing? And I was like, oh, I could do it. And I was like, cool. And then I thought, but how can I do it 8 shows a week?
8 shows.
How can I do it 6 shows a week?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. So I immediately called Alex Brightman. And I said, Brightman, you're doing Beetlejuice. How are you doing this? How are you doing this voice? And he said, oh, great question. I got a guy. And Derek Rosenblatt is a vocal teacher and vocal coach out here in New York. And I got with him, and we started working on how to do what we call doing something really unsafe safely. It was about, it was like we would do warm-ups, and we were like, it was like going to a vocal gym. So it was like la 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 la. Okay, do it like Louis. La 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 la. And we would like do that over and over again, like get it together so that I could get my chords strong enough to do it. And then it was about resting. It really was about taking time to rest so that I could, do it the next day. But watching Louis's clips, and also listening to his albums, and also at his home is a museum in Queens, which is the most incredible museum you'll ever see. It is spectacular, because on one side of the street is the museum, and on the other side is his home in Queens that you can walk into, and they'll give tours of his house. And you can see and feel Louis all around it. And Lucille, there's a whole joke in our show about Lucille buying this house. That's the house. And she made it a museum for her husband. And not only was he a prolific writer, but he recorded all before podcasts were even a thought. he would record all the people that came to his house in conversations, and he would record all the TV shows that came on reel to reel. So there are thousands of tapes of him just having normal conversations, not even interviews, just normal conversations. Because when you're in an interview, you talk like this, like you're animated and you're this, you're that, blah, blah, blah. And then like if it's just three of us talking, we're animated, but there's a level of normalcy that we talk in.
Yeah.
And when he would just talk to his friends, talk about things and make things and make jokes and talk about it and look over there and everything. And I can't believe the people. And all of a sudden it was that he was relaxed and finding that voice. Or even when he was younger, he's talking and his voice was always scratchy because he the fun part is what we couldn't put in the show was that he had 2 surgeries, and back then science wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't great. So them operating on his vocal cords was not a good thing, and he was a smoker and a drinker. So between smoking, drinking, and 2 surgeries and him getting sick, that's where that voice came from. But Louis was such a great musician. If you listen to his albums, he's never off key, ever. What's funny about him is he said, well, if this is what my voice sounds like, I need to use this as my instrument. And so he started using that gravel for certain things, and everything he's an incredible improviser. But a lot of his things that what he was doing vocally, he knew what he was going to do. He was like, oh yeah, I got this.
Oh yeah.
And also he could hear the music in the air. So when he was like riffing or like scatting, whatever, he was like, yeah, if you watch his eyes, you can see like, he's like, oh, I can do that. That's cool.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I'm going to go back and look for that now. Yeah. That's really cool.
Like,
that's really cool.
One of my favorite clips is this clip called Dinah. Watch his eyes. And he's doing, and you watch his eyes. He's like, you can see him. He's playing, but he's also, I can see the music going. And it's really cool to see.
Wow.
And I would watch hours of footage of this man just so I can, like, something as simple as he's right-handed with the valves, but he held his trumpet in his left hand. He held it by the bell with the handkerchief, and then when it was time to play, he'd hold the handkerchief here, and then when it was time to play, put the handkerchief back and switch. So the handkerchief is here, he's playing little things like that just so I could get it. And like I would spend time in the mirror with my phone looking at his face and trying to get the smile right. I knew if I angled my face this way, the smile would look like him. So it was really
wow.
I really went in on how to do stuff.
And thinking about the Louis Armstrong house, going back to what you were saying about his letters and everything too, can you just talk about what the research was like to get into character?
It was interesting to see how he changed over the years. How he looked at the world and how he was very positive for a long time, and then he got a little negative, and then as he got older, he got more positive. Again, but. You're talking about 4 decades. This man was in the 20s.
We are not a museum. 60s. Like we said, we're not a museum. We evolve. We change.
And his whole thought pattern of, self and what made it important and who he was. And I need the outside world to tell me I'm okay. And how he had imposter syndrome. On 2 different levels. He never wanted to be the front guy. He always just enjoyed playing the horn behind his favorites, nice. Behind, the Kid Ory's and the King Joe Olivers. And he just wanted to play behind these guys. And then it was his wife. It was Lil Hardin who said, do you know how good you are? You need to go out. And he was like, I can't do that to my father figure, King Joe. And she was like, King Joe loves you, but he don't love you enough to pay you what you need to be paid. You need to get out front and do your own thing.
Yeah, it was the first act of the show is very imposter syndrome heavy, and it really you watch him bloom. You really watch him come into himself a lot.
And that was her. And what's funny is I always laugh that you could do a whole musical about Lil Hardin because she arranged all the music. She was the band leader. And as a woman at that time,
my gosh, integral to his life.
She was kind of erased, and she's just starting to come back into the musical history because people are realizing, wow, she arranged that song. Because the guys were intimidated by her, and they would tease Louis and go, "Oh, you're henpecked because your wife is in charge. You got to ask your wife, can you go out to play tonight?" And he was young, and just imagine being in your 20s and some guys are playing. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why they got divorced, because he wasn't mature enough to handle the relationship.
Right. Yeah.
But as he grew into the musician that he knew he could be, it was interesting to read the letters and to read what he was saying to his friends about, and people always thought, Louis doesn't care about racial situations. No, those letters say something totally different. They say something totally
Yeah.
different. And
Yeah.
Louis was partly raised by a Jewish family, the Karnowskis. So he always had this love for the Jewish population. And also, he wore a Star of David all his life. All his
Really?
life, he wore a Star of David under his shirt. Yes, all his life under his shirt. And we had it in the show, and unfortunately, because it was for timing, we had to cut that one particular. We had like a sentence about it. We had to cut it out. But no, he was. Oh, and he always said it was at that moment that I realized that not all white people are bad. I knew that. He goes, I knew that because of my childhood, and I just had to. He always kept that in the focal point of his mind, so that he knew no matter what he was going through. He's like, not everybody, because he also said some black people have treated me crazy. Because then when he got popular, the black folks turned on him.
Right.
He became popular on movies, and black people turned on him. He was like, okay, so I can't win for losing. And that was one of the reasons that's one of the things that helped me out getting into the character, because I knew what that was like to be considered not black enough by your peers. But also the white folks look at you and go, well, we don't know what to do with you. Because, you know, there's a black sound, and I don't have that. There's a black way of speaking, and I don't have that. And also, my name is James Monroe Iglehart, so nothing like putting my name in the email, and then I show up to the office, and I don't look. They're like, Jim Iglehart? I'm like, James Iglehart. They're like, oh, that has happened
Oh man.
more times than I can remember. Like, I mean, yeah, like, I'm like, ooh, you weren't expecting Brown, were you? Didn't think that was walking in the door.
Oh no, that's wild, man.
So when I read his book and heard him, realized he was going through that, I was like, oh, I know exactly who this dude is. I know exactly what he's going through.
Yeah.
And that's how I found it.
That's the thing that I love that you brought to life about him the most that I didn't know about is that he was California sober. I didn't know that he was such a big stoner. He was a mega stoner, man. He loved his weed.
Right.
It was. Right. I was like, who is this? Who's this modern American hero that is like storming the gates here in this musical? Am I seeing Reefer Madness, or is this A Wonderful World?
Somebody said, you know, if he was alive today, you know, who would he hang with? And I was like, he'd be hanging with the rappers. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I said, Louis would be the first one on the front line going, legalize it, legalize it. He'd be the first. He got arrested a couple times. The way they got him was because of weed.
Yeah.
They couldn't get him for anything else.
Yeah. If Louis was alive today, he'd be hanging out with Martha Stewart, pushing aggressively all of his weed products, you know? It'd
be just Louis Armstrong and like Jaleel White, you know, just Urkel, just you know.
Yeah, it was
Satchmo
wild seeing the show.
Purple Urkel.
I loved it. I love that little bit of him. It was just like it was always like, yeah, whatever's going on, but where's my Mary Jane? Like, is it safe? Is it in the drawer?
No, because what's funny is what we couldn't put in was that he loved laxatives too. His mother told him that the best way to clean yourself out was laxatives. So there's a picture he sent out. Louis, we couldn't put this. I wanted to so badly, and our director would not. He was like, "No, James, he's a British man."
Do you want to get nominated for a Tony for this, James? Do you want this to be the show about a guy who's pooping too much?
Sharded and Carded was
It's right there.
I tried to explain it.
You could have been the bona fide scat king.
Yeah,
I tried to explain it. It all comes back to that. But no, there's a postcard of Louis Armstrong. Seriously, that he sent out to friends of him on the toilet, just like smiling with like this laxative. It's like I think it's called Swiss Chris. I think it is. Look it up, Brendon. Swiss Chris.
I'm looking it up.
It is hysterical because people were like, "Yo, man,
there it is."
He was like,
wow.
He was like, it's either weed or this Swiss Chris laxative, baby. And so on the show, since we couldn't talk about it, our set designer was brilliant. I wish our show would have lasted longer because on the set, it was made up of all the different suitcases because he traveled so much.
I was obsessed when I walked into that space.
Two of the packages like that box you have for the Electric Mayhem. Two of them, one on stage left, one on stage right, had Swiss Chris on it.
Oh, really?
And some fans were like,
"That's a deep cut."
Man of his time.
Extreme deep cut.
He was a man of his time, you know. He was a man of his time.
It's available for $12.97 on Amazon. There you
go.
Have Swiss Chris.
There you go. Boy, I did not expect this. This to come full
4.6
circle.
stars. So
I really hope you grab I hope you grab it, James, because it was such a good show, man. I had such a great time. The audience was like so plugged in, and will it go out in the world? Will it tour? Like, will it license?
I'm hoping. It all depends.
And would you tour with it? Because you're the linchpin, man. Like. I know there's other guys. I get that there's other guys, but you're like it, man. You're it. I hate to say it, but you're it.
All I'll say is never say never. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. They have to let me know, and it's because of the fact that we closed. It really is one of those things that unfortunately I can't talk about. So It's like they'll have to let me know what's happening.
Sure.
I've heard London is in the ether. We'll see what happens. We don't know, but
I can't recommend it enough to see it.
I had fun.
It's like it's on par with every musical biopic I've ever seen. Like, you will leave there like having a character redefined in your brain as to what you expected, what your expectations were, completely changed. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Thank you very much, man.
You have originated, and yada yada yada. I've seen you. I've been stalking you your entire career. I'm a creeper. But now Hercules is coming to the Disney Destiny in this reinvented way, and you were the Phil, baby. You did it. So now, again, Disney Legends. What are we sleeping on here? Let's get it rolling. Are you hyped for this?
I am. I've loved Hercules since it first came out. I remember where I was when I saw it. I was in Ashland, Oregon, in 1996, I believe, seeing this film, and thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever heard before. And it was the first time I really, really recognized African-American Broadway folks in a movie, because the muses, are, Roz Ryan, Lillias White, and LaShawns, and I'm terrible, I can't think of the fourth one. It's just these wonderful, amazing ladies who I now know, who I still can't believe I actually get to meet and like go, hi, cool. You're a friend, And then getting to do it twice, getting to do it in the, in the park, and also then getting to do it at Paper Mill. I am so excited for this. And also my dear friend, Trevor Dion Nichols, who was my standby as Genie and also took over for Genie in London. He was the original Genie in London, is now playing Phil in London when they're doing it in the West End.
Nice.
So Hercules is on the West End, so they're doing that now. That's actually about to open. So I am excited for the project, and can't wait to see whatever they do with it, man.
Listen, let me get Yellow Shoes on the phone. Yellow Shoes, if you do not invite this man to the opening of the Destiny and have him be on the media sailing for like all the PR shots of meeting the cast.
Do they still do the thing where you can like throw a bottle at the boat?
No, it's digital now. It's a CGI screen. They don't break a bottle on it anymore. It's a CGI thing that they do like 100 feet away on a platform, like for like all the news vans to park on. So we need to get James on the boat.
Well, the funny thing is, I've ridden the boat before, and I'm not the Destiny, but I rode the Magic, and it was the Wish. It was great. But the funny thing is, when I think about what I've done with Disney and how excited I am, I've been the Genie. I was Lance Strongbow in the TV series for Rapunzel's Tangled Adventures, and then I've been on Elena of Avalar. I have also been on Vampirina. I play
Super
Mr.
Kitties.
Puppy Paws
Super Kitties
on Super Kitties.
Super
Kitties. I am also Disney's Kif. I play Kif's dad, Martin. I have been in Disenchanted, which is still a funny story because we were cut out of 20 minutes of that movie. Oh my Lord, don't even get me started about that.
Really?
If you watch Disenchanted, what's homeboy's name? It's gonna the lead guy. What his escape? I see his face. I know. He's nice.
He's in Hairspray. The handsome man from Hairspray.
No.
James Marsden.
James Marsden.
No, not James Marsden. The other one.
Patrick Dempsey.
Patrick Dempsey. McSteamy.
So we played. So we played actually McDreamy.
Excuse me. How dare I? Excuse me. Pardon.
So me and Ann Harada and Michael McCurry Rose were playing his sidekicks. We were written to be his sidekicks. We have this whole. If you listen to the soundtrack, there's a song called "Hard Time for Heroes." Alan Menken wrote this great song for us, this big-ass dance number and everything. And then what happened was, I guess they showed the film to, like, a test audience, and all of the women 35 and up didn't like the fact that he wasn't being the prince they wanted him to be, because it was supposed to be like a women power movie. And so they basically said they went back and refilmed all his stuff, and we got completely cut out. But
No!
but the director was so sweet, and he loved us so much. He was like, look, we have to do this. We have to redo the film, but thank you for your time. We want to bring you in for one more shoot. They flew us to London, and that's why in the film, we're in there. We went from 20 minutes to a minute and 30 seconds. And we start off this great song in the movie, but I can now say I'm in a Disney film. Also, the movie Wish, I play the bear in that film. So I have done Disney. And
in the You're a Star compilation? In like in the whole You're a Star song? I didn't know that,
also,
man.
When the guy gets attacked, by the rabbits, and the bear says, "I'm not the one you got to worry about." That's me.
I didn't know.
And so,
that
and what's funny is
so
that
much.
John Bear is an homage to Little John and Baloo, because he's talking to Bambi as they walk away. So I have now been on Disney Broadway, Disney TV, Disney Internet, Disney Film, and Disney Radio. So I have done.
What are we sleeping on, Disney Legend Committee? Holy crap! Let's get it
all
going.
I'm saying is that it just I'm as a Disney kid, from going to Disneyland my first time when I was little, to seeing Jungle Book, to being in Hercules, to being in all these things. The fact that I've got to be around the Disney family this much has been nothing but a blessing, and they've been so wonderful to me, and they've taught me so much about the business, but also I've been able to live out dreams, absolute dreams, doing this. And it's the coolest, and I love all the things I've ever done. Like, I wouldn't have got Louis Armstrong if I didn't have Genie. You know what I mean? These things all start with that moment of the Broadway community going, who's that guy? And then now I've been able to branch out and then still come back to, to Disney and say, it's like, hey, I'm still a part of the Disney family. I still get to do stuff. And it's so much fun to do.
What was one of your dreams, writing a Spider-Man comic?
Yes.
And you did it.
My
has to
dream
be
was
one
to
of the
just write
coolest things ever.
To just write a comic.
Wow.
Dude, okay, first of all, I'm in Hamilton chilling out, and it's I don't know if they still do it, but every Halloween they would do, for some reason, $10 tickets to Hamilton. And one of the guys that got to come was Dan Slott. If you don't know who Dan Slott is, Google Dan Slott. Dan Slott is the reason we have the Spider-Verse. Dan Slott is also the reason for some of you Spider-Man fans who killed off Peter Parker and made Superior Spider-Man and made Doc Ock Spider-Man for about a year and a half, and everybody was mad at him. Dan Slott told me he got death threats because people were like, you killed Peter Parker. And he was like, he's on stage with me, and he says, I said, man, I've always wanted to write a comic. He said, why don't you write one? I'm like, I don't know anybody. He goes, well, you just met me. And he called the guys at Marvel and said, hey, James wants to do something. And that's how I ended up doing two Marvel Voices comics, and I got to be a part of the Marvel 1000, which 80 writers, 80 artists, you got to write a one-page story. So I've written 2 Spider-Man stories and one page story of Rocket and Groot.
Oh, nice.
So much
That's
fun.
Amazing. I didn't get to find them. I only learned about this. Who were the villains of your Spider-Man stories? Who did you put them up against?
I actually had Dr. Voodoo was not the villain, but he was there. I can't. It was one of Dr. Voodoo's villains. I can't think of the name. I'm like flipping out. I'm a terrible writer. So obviously, I have no recollection. I remember my heroes. Oh, I remember Crush. Crush from the original when Spider-Man first got his powers, he had to wrestle somebody. So that particular guy I put in the comic to as a revision.
Ooh, cool.
And then my second comic, I didn't have a villain. I had this opening story for this new character I created called Goddess, which is this giant spider. I basically said, if a spider bit Peter and he became Spider-Man, what happened to that spider? What did that spider get? So I had this moment where there's a moment in the comics where the spider was hit and split into 2. One spider died and one spider lived. And when so they're basically clones of each other. That spider that bit Peter Parker ended up getting his human consciousness. And this mutant ability to become a giant spider. So she's like the size of like a car. And she lives in New York. And she sees Spider-Man for the first time and goes, well, obviously that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help people. But because of her hunger, how does she do that? So she only kills bad guys. So
Whoa,
there's a whole scene.
Man.
Wow.
There's a whole scene where this lady's getting mugged, and he gets whipped by a web, and everybody thinks it's Spider-Man, but you can't find the body anymore because she eats them. So I'm hoping I get a chance to maybe. I'm hoping I'm get a chance to maybe write. I would love to write her again and have Spider-Man actually meet her and go, "You can't kill people," or at least do something.
Yeah,
but
I want to see her fight Shelob from Lord of the Rings. I want to see him go at it.
That's what I'm
There
saying.
you go.
That's the inspiration. I was like, well, I was like, there's this giant spider there, and also there's this, Aragog and Harry Potter, which is basically the same thing.
Why does Spider-Man not have a giant spider? Even Doctor Who has a giant spider, for crying out loud.
Right. So I was like, in my world, there's a giant spider just around Manhattan taking out smaller criminals that nobody knows where these criminals disappear. And I think it's just.
I'd love to see that in a future Spider-Man PlayStation 5 title. Come on, Sony, let's get on that.
DLC pack.
She just shows up like, holy shit,
Well, James, as we wrap up the convo, I know you're a Disney park fan. We've talked about it a lot. What is your Disney park? Like, what is your thing? Like, when you go, what's your ride? What's your snack? Like, what's your business? Like, what do you do?
Oh, yeah. Must enjoy walking down Main Street, because once I realized that Main Street was the opening of the movie, the Walt had the film, and you see all the names, I have to look at the names. And then before the weekend's over, I have to ride the Haunted Mansion, which is my favorite ride ever, and I have to ride it at least 3 times. I've ridden it in Disneyland, Disney World, and in Disney Paris. I have a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, which is the best
Which
one?
is the best one?
Oh, it's hard because all 3 are slightly different. The story in Paris is way different and way cool.
Cowboys, dead cowboys.
Yeah, dead cowboys, and like when you go through the saloons and stuff. But there's something magical about both of them, because Disneyland being first, it's something really cool about that. But I love the queue. I love the queue of Disneyland, for the Haunted Mansion. But there is something about riding the the little chairs next to the pictures as they change. And that's really fun for me.
Yeah,
and also
yeah.
the Hatbox Ghost is really cool. I just love the Mellow Men, because I can sing that song forever. Actually, if anybody wants a deep cut, go find me singing the Haunted Mansion and Ichabod and the Headless Horseman. I put them together during the pandemic. During the pandemic I produced a concert of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas with all my Broadway fans, all my Broadway friends, and then as a commercial, we did this song. But so I have to ride that ride. I have a love-hate relationship with both the Tower of Terror and with Guardians of the Galaxy, because I hate heights, but I have to ride it. I have, because Disney World's Twilight Zone Tower of Terror has got the coolest intro.
Thank you for using the official name, by the way. We're trying to stay on brand here, so thank you.
I mean, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is one of the coolest, because you move through the track until it separates you. And also, I am such a Twilight Zone nerd that it lands and you get off the ride and you look, and there was the dummy from the episode of There's the Phone, or there's the little devil that William Shatner sees and like can't decide with. I had to write it again so I could see.
There's the suitcase that says Swiss
Yes!
Chris.
right.
It's all there.
Yes, Brendon, bring it back.
Oh my God!
And you asked me for my snack. So my snack in both parks, my treat in both parks are I call them the Mickey heads. They are the kind of like the Eskimo pies. They're like the
Biggie Pops,
the vanilla ice cream with the chocolate covering. I love that.
Yeah.
But there's I don't know what it is. I don't know what they put in it. And this is gonna sound. I hope nobody racially terrible is watching your show, because I do love the fried chicken at Disney World and Disneyland. The one in Disneyland on Main Street. That you go to the left, that little place, I can't think.
Yeah,
on the corner.
That's all right, James. Also, you did so much work. You did so much work moving everything forward with this. You can say you like fried chicken.
I can say it.
It's okay. You can say you like fried chicken.
Right. Because then you go to Disney World, and you go to Hollywood Studios, and you go to the primetime TV
It's good, isn't it?
Maybe
that fried chicken quarter is good.
The fried chicken, and also the pot roast. Man, bruh, and that gives me the energy to walk for 6 hours. Cause I'm like, I know I can do it because I'm gonna get to eat here, so I'm fine.
Yeah, I go into that place and my anxiety always gets the best of me because I just want everyone to like me. And when the waitresses are mean to me, I like kind of like can't handle it, and I have to negotiate with them. I have to like I'm relentless until they love me by the end. I was like, you're gonna love me.
But for me, I always laugh because I'm like, look, I'll play with you, but just get the food here. You say what you want. Listen, son, your elbows on the table. All right, later. Look, just bring the damn food. I'm fine. Okay, cool. I'm always nice. There's certain like my new thing is the Guardians of the Galaxy ride in Epcot, and I've been a Tron fan since I was 10 years old. So to get the ride, the light cycles, and I rode it in the daytime, and I rode it at night. And when you ride it at night,
yeah.
Boy, also, I will say, I must always go to the Country Bear Jamboree. Must. It is a must. It's a have to. I'm still getting used to the new one.
Yeah.
Used to the new one.
It's polling very well with guest services. People love it.
I'm glad of that. But for those of us that are,
OG,
I'm that guy. So fun story. When my wife got in the car one day, and she calls me and she says, "Must you leave your CD in the car playing loudly?" I said, "Oh, what was that?" She goes, "First of all, it's the fact that it was on the volume was too loud, and I don't need to turn on the car and be blasted by the Country Bear Jamboree California Vacation." And I was like, "I'm sorry."
Summer vacation, baby. Yeah. That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
And what's funny is I like the original. I like the Christmas one, but the Summer Vacation is my favorite.
It's a good one. It's funny. Fergie wanted me to ask you this, and I'm going to manifest this right now. I'm going to pitch it into the world. Okay. I think that you, me, Fergie, we'll grab a couple other guys, the Country Bear live Jamboree at 54 Below. Come on. 54 Below sings the Country Bear Jamboree. Yeah. You just get a bunch of handsome bears. And it's sold, baby.
I'm with it. Listen, it works. It works. I will do that. And here's the other thing. There's not many Disney things that I dislike. But that movie I don't dislike, but that movie I want to redo. I feel the Country Bear movie can be redone.
Loved it.
I don't get me wrong. My problem is this.
It's good for what it is.
Didn't give them enough. It's good for what it is. I felt they didn't give them enough story, and I feel that there's a story there. But with the way that Pixar and CGI is now, you could do a CGI bears with real people and have a good. Yeah, maybe not biopic because that was the biopic, but like get them on a reunion tour or something.
The problem is it's like the Muppet movie. It's like an evil oil. It's the same plot as the Muppet movie. It's like, oh, they're closing the theater. They found oil. We got to save the theater. It's like what is going on?
And so for me, I'm like, there's a whole different story there with all of the bears. Yes. And that can be done. And this is something that I've thought about way too much.
Let's write a musical. Let's just take it to Broadway. The Country Bears rebooted.
I think that there's something there with that story that would be fun to do with the Country Bears,
Which is, when I talked to Fergie, he also wanted me to ask you what Country Bear you identify the most with, because I always say that I am like a cousin to Big Al, So, but who's your Country Bear?
I always feel like I am Henry at the beginning. I feel like I'm surrounded. I feel like I'm like, those are just kind of jokes we do here, folks. I feel like I'm surrounded by my wild ass friends who just do a bunch of crap.
I love Country Bear.
There is something about Liver Lips that just kills me. But Liver Lips as Elvis singing,
Have you seen his new walk around costume character? They put a wig on him. They put the Elvis wig on him. He's wearing like rhinestones, and he's out and about meeting people, and he looks like a gem. He looks an absolute gem.
I love it. Let's give credit to all the people who are in those costumes. Can we just give credit to all the people in the costumes? Because y'all are in California and Florida, and it is hot as hell out there.
The humidity has to be awful.
Every time I see him, I'm like, you guys are saints, absolute saints.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. James, you are my hero, man. You are so incredible. Thank you so much for coming and visiting me and talking to me. I wish you I wish all the Tonys for you. I hope you get it. I learned so much on this chat. I'm kind of flabbergasted, like you're a wealth of knowledge and you're just a great dude. And also, you're one of us. You're a Disney Parks fan. And like, that's where it's all at. You know what I mean?
And like, also, there was something you said that I just wanted to let you know. You're amazing, Dan. And just know that. So don't worry about the big guy thing. I know you've embraced it, but embrace it even more, because the cool thing about us is everybody expects the skinny guys to do that. Everybody expects the guys with the abs to do what they do. Nobody expects us to do what we do. And nobody else can. There's only a few of us that can. So when you're a big, round, bear-like guy, embrace it, because what we do is shocking to people. And then when we can make it not shocking to people, then people just go, holy crap, they're amazing. And also what I love about it is, here's something Hollywood doesn't talk about. There's this whole thing where they talk about, everybody wants the skinny girl, and now everybody's into the thick girl. There are 1,000 million women. Yeah, I said it, 1,000 million women that are into the thick guy. They want a honey-voiced, big, bearded man to just hug them up. So we are sexy. So embrace that, Disney Dan. Don't you know who you are? Embrace that, Disney Dan.
I'm embracing it. I'm embracing all of it. I'm embracing it. Thank you. Thank you.
And then what happens? Then your woman has to grab a bat and start beating people down. Because once you embrace it, once you walk in with that confidence, there is nothing like a confident brother who has only one ab, because it makes all the other skinny guys mad. Think about it, because we walk in.
True. I'm furious right now.
Because we walk into the party and they're like, "Oh, I can't eat that," and we walk right to the pizzas like, "I don't give a damn about you, but I can eat this. Peace out."
Don't worry, I'll eat your slice. It's okay. You leave it.
Right? You don't have to eat it. I'll take it. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I got you.
Well, there's some uplifting words to end on. Honestly, what else can you say? Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate it.
Please, Brendon, Dan, I've had a wonderful time. This has been so much fun.
I can't wait to chat with you more. I can't wait to hang out with you more.
Please, anytime.
I can't wait to hear this Patti LuPone story.
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, when you cut this off.
Well, thanks for listening. The podcast is over now. Find James on Broadway. Just keep going to Broadway until you see him, and then keep going back. Is there any place else we should find you, James? Is there any place we should point people right now?
Right now, just the Tony Awards.
The Tonys.
Look for Disney Plus. Look for Tony Awards, and then also look for Disney Plus. I'll be on KIF, and I'll be on Super Kitties, and you never know. You may see me on some of the other little animated things that they're doing.
That's amazing. Hey, just a shout out at the end. I just got on Disney Plus. I did a show for the History Channel. Did a show how Disney built America on history, and they just brought it to Disney Plus. So we're both on Disney Plus, baby. Give it up.
I'm on Disney Plus too.
Are you really?
You know, Brendon.
Yeah, and in the new Goofy doc, when they're talking about the YouTube section, there's a little.
Wait, I see you. I saw you. I watched it on the plane. I watched it on the plane.
On the corner as it's like zooming in.
That's so funny.
On the plane because the Goofy movie is one of my favorite. We didn't even talk about that. That's a whole different show.
Well,
but
I do have one other
thing. I'll say look forward for a new musical, hopefully next year, coming out called The Funkantine Rapture, written by Lee Summers. It's a funk musical about a young man named George who wants to be a funk master and the big bad disco man who tries to stop him. I'm directing it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. It's original music, and it's the funniest, silliest, awesomest, most funkiest music you can see.
I'm set.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
Thanks, guys.
So ready.
James, my hero. Thanks, man. Thanks for listening, guys. Now leave. The podcast is over. Go home. Go.
Get out.
This has been a production of 710 Media.